Hi.
Hi all.
This is the part that I have to say something interesting because people watching this video usually only get about 5 minutes of watching people come on without anything entertaining to listen to. So I thought I would change that this time and maybe give a brief introduction for the people that are coming to watch us for the first time. We're a small group, relatively new. We came into being since, I think it was the 22nd of May when Jacques Fresco passed away. And this group is dedicated to learning more and sharing more ideas about a resource-based economy. And it is not aligned to any one particular group. The emphasis is on sharing our common ideas towards our common goals. So as I'm talking, people will be joining us, and I have no idea how many people will be coming tonight. It's always a very voluntary thing. If you, as a viewer, are interested in joining these meetings, you can find them on the events of our Facebook page, and that is the Moving Forward RBE Learning Network. And for each of our events, every 2 weeks, you can find the links, you can find the subject, you can find how to prepare, you can find also posts on our page. We also have a group discussion forum. It's on Discord, and you can get a code for that if you mail us at movingforwardrbe@gmail.com. And if you're not so good at keeping an agenda, we also have a Telegram group, I believe, that keeps people up to date on when the meetings are and news like that. So I thought that went pretty well. What about you guys? I actually was thinking of finding some kind of RBE related joke, but I thought, well, we have to give the impression of a serious group here, so try to give a good spiel.
Yeah, I was trying to decide whether or not I wanted to play a backing track for you. But
I think we missed that, indeed. Next time we have to throw that in. Or maybe if of course I won't be the host the next time, so I can use my violin for a little bit of melodrama to get people really into the mood. Hi, Nicholas.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi. Omar, you're here for the first time. Nice to see you. Don't know if you're able to talk to us or just listening, but welcome. We don't see Stephanie. She must be just waking up. Ah, Yuri, hello. Nice that you're here again.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Stephanie. Why can't we see you?
I just woke up, so.
Yeah. Bad hair morning.
Yeah.
Hi, Marcio. First time you're here. Jeff, hi, nice to see you.
Hey. Omar, at the bottom of the screen, there should be a button that gives you access to the voice.
I can turn it on for you, Omar, if you'd like to say hello. Why isn't it working? Oh, yes, unmute. Omar, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, nice. I turned your mic on so we can hear that you're there, and welcome you all for your first time, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, great. Where are you joining us from?
I am from Syria.
Okay, wow, that's great. Wow, incredible that you're able to join us. And Marcio, you're here for the first time as well? Let's see. Hello? Marcio? Well, maybe he doesn't hear me. Okay, well, welcome everybody. My name is Charlotte and I'm the chairperson for this evening. And as I mentioned in the introduction, we are a new group. So we are in the process of finding out what the best way is to promote education and support of a resource-based economy. One item that we support as a group is the concept of the transparency of an organization. So before we turn to our presentation, I would like to inform you of the points we covered in our last meeting of the organization on the 10th of July. So we got together and we decided on a few points. The first thing is we would like to keep the official meetings to a maximum of 90 minutes. That's the official meeting. After that is over, people may leave or discuss further as they wish. The reason we decided to do this is, first of all, the effectiveness of what we have to communicate, our concentration. A lot of people sort of are out of it after about an hour and a half. But most importantly, the role that these videos have. We make these videos not only to be transparent to the people following us, but also for people, hi Tommy, also for people who are watching these films for education. Now, I don't know about the rest of you, but I have a hard time keeping concentration on a video for more than about 5 minutes. So if we want people to be watching our films and getting something out of them, we have to keep them at a certain length, and we thought 90 minutes was the maximum. The second point that we agreed upon in the organization meeting was that we follow a definite structure. Oh yes, I wanted to share my screen here, didn't I? Yeah. Here we are. So, so the second point we agreed upon was that the meetings follow a definite structure, although the times here are approximate. We start at 1800 hours Greenwich Mean Time and we end at 7:30 Greenwich Mean Time. The introduction takes about 5 minutes, the presentation about 30. The question or the sharing time, it has a limit per person. If there are 10 people, we have to keep it to about 3 minutes per person because that will already be a half an hour. We'd also like to reserve a part at the end for practical matters. So things about future meetings, about speakers, problems that we may have, feedback people have for us. So that's a sort of way for you to let us know what's on your mind in terms of the group. And finally, to close at for 5 minutes. The third point we agreed on in the organization meeting was about the role of the host in the rotation. So first of all, the host should always welcome people to the meeting and tell the audience basically what they can expect, what's going to be coming up. The host also has to keep speakers on track. So if people go on, to remind them that there is a time limit, to keep on topic, things like that. And learning about nonviolent communication this evening, it will help us with that. And if there is a new topic which really needs to be addressed, then we'll make time for that at the end of the meeting. Ideally, we would like to have the post of chairperson rotate so that it's not only concentrated in a few people, but that everybody gets the chance, can be involved in doing these meetings. So once this procedure gets automatic, people can start volunteering to doing the chairmanship themselves. The fourth point we talked about in the organization meeting was about the Discord platform. That is our discussion platform, and we recently posted guidelines to make sure that nonviolent communication is adhered to in these meetings. Now, our idea was that the main room for Discord would be related to the most recent presentation topic. As the Discord channel expands, perhaps we can keep more than one room open for also older presentation topics. The final point that we had in our organization meeting was about speakers and presentations. We currently have a program of speakers up to and including the 17th of September. I personally am really excited about this. And if you've seen the post, you can see we've got some really great topics coming up. One area that hasn't been scheduled yet is something about ecological planning in the resource-based economy. So if you or someone you know would be able to present that, let me or the other organizers know about it. Yeah? So those were the points we covered in the organization meeting. And like I said, this is because we believe in being transparent, so that everybody knows what's going on when we meet together. And if you have any comments on any of the points I just mentioned, keep them to the practical matters at the end of the meeting, okay? Right. Well, then it's time for me to turn the meeting over to Tony, who is from the World Summit Group, and he's going to be talking to us tonight about nonviolent communication. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you for the introduction, Charlotte. Right, I'm going to start off that I'm really nervous. I haven't done something like this before, so you have to bear with me. So, but I'm sure that Charlotte will keep me in check if I ramble on. Right, first of all, a quick introduction. I'm Tony. I'm part of the group called the World Summit, and Stephanie, who also works with the World Summit, has asked me to do a presentation for moving forward. I thought it was about the World Summit, and then she told me, no, I want you to do something about nonviolent communication. And I thought, like, okay, I don't know an awful lot about that, to be honest, so sorry about that. So I said, I don't know an awful lot about it. And Stephanie says, well, actually you do, because we wrote our manifesto that way. And I'll come back to that in a bit, probably. So thinking about it, and I thought, like, well, you know what, maybe I do know a little bit about nonviolent communication, and done a little bit of research. It was quite interesting. And I kind of prepared a kind of a PowerPoint presentation. It's been about 30 years ago since I've done my last PowerPoint presentation, so you have to bear with me. So if you guys are ready, I'll dive straight into it, if that's okay. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Can you all see it?
Yeah, we can see it, Tony.
Yeah, okie dokie. Right. Nonviolent communication and a little common sense. Nonviolent communication, semantics, and common sense, they are all kind of interlinked, and I will come to that in a moment. First, I'd like to explain where it came from. It was Marshall Rosenberg that developed nonviolent communication in the 60s. And it focuses on the three aspects of communication, which is the first is self-empathy, as a deep and compassionate awareness of your own inner being and experience. And this sounds really deep. This is going into the exploration of yourself. Empathy, which is defined as an understanding of the heart in which we see the inner beauty of another person, where we can actually reflect parts of ourselves onto others and create a better understanding. And honesty and self-expression, where you express yourself authentically in a way that is likely to inspire compassion in others. So it is very easy to understand that if you start a conversation in an aggressive tone, the response will be equal. You get an equal reaction of that. And that's something that NVC wants to avoid and tries to promote, to give the empathy and compassion to others, so they can experience how you feel and they can find that back in themselves. So nonviolent communication, also known as compassionate communication or collaborative communication, is based on the principles of nonviolence, which is the natural state of compassion when there is no violence present in the heart. We can all assume that every person is compassionate by nature and that violent behaviors, whether verbal or physical, are taught and learned by our present culture. And we all know about violent communication, and it doesn't just mean the way we talk to each other. When I go back, can everybody still hear me?
You're fine, Tony. We're listening with all ears.
Brilliant, because I can't see you guys. So, so we all know what violent communication is. I think we've, unfortunately, Charlotte and I experienced that not so long ago. And it's sometimes very difficult. Sometimes people just will not listen and will get stuck in their ways. And it becomes very difficult when people try to belittle beliefs or on how you work and think that by getting the knowledge from a library is more important than the knowledge from the heart kind of thing. For me, it was more or less by self-awareness. But violent communication, this is what we're looking at the moment at times. How can we present non-violent communication to this generation that we have now that is being so engrossed in murder, death, computer games that present a lot of violence? So how do we tackle that? I mean, I saw this picture on the internet, and it gave me the shivers, because what are we teaching our kids? This is not the right way to go forward. So how do we implement non-violent communication into our lives? The answer is easy, but it will take a lot of practice. First, realize yourself and the way you would like to be spoken to, and realize that communication should be based on empathy and compassion. Realize that the person you might speak to might not possess those qualities yet, and in which case you will have to be accommodating and patient. At this point, it is also important that you use or that you combine it with a little bit of common sense, because we can make things extremely complicated, which brings me to the next point, which is semantics. I've spoken to people from the Venus Project.
¿Cómo está? Buenas tardes. Sí.
Charlotte, would you be able to mute that?
I can't see who it is.
I believe it's Marcos.
Yeah. Got it.
Thank you. So I've been speaking to people from the Venus Project, and they've told me about semantics, and they explained something about it. So I just wanted to read to you guys what I found in the dictionary, how it explains it. When you look in the dictionary, it will say the following in a nutshell. It is a branch of linguistics and logic concerned with meaning. The two main areas are logical semantics, concerned with matters such as sense and reference and the presupposition and implication, and lexical semantics, concerned with the analysis of you know what I mean, of word meanings and relations between them. Now, why do I mention semantics in MVC? Because it is important that when you communicate with someone that you choose your words right, because some people speak from the heart while others speak from the mind. They do say underneath the quotation of the dictionary about semantics is, he gave an example about being having petty semantics where words are being misconstrued or being taken out of context. But the idea that lies behind it, to be precise in what you're trying to say, is important. So it is important in my point of view that the two need to be combined, non-violent communication and semantics, because we have to be clear and honest in what we're trying to say and what we express ourselves, so we avoid misunderstandings. But it will be, as we are learning a new language that everyone can understand and relate to. Now, this is the big one. NVC is a great idea. Semantics is also very good. Common sense, we need that. But in the society that we live now, it is very difficult to implement. Because if we look at NVC today, NVC has been applied to organizational and business settings, parenting, mediation, and many other things. And Rosenberg said that he has used NVC in conflict areas, including Rwanda, Colombia, Sri Lanka, Ireland, the Middle East, and also the Palestinian territories. But because of how the system works today and the influx of bad, biased news and the need for more money to feed material needs and all the things that distract us from socializing with others, we have become too afraid. That sounded like a demon then. Did everybody hear that as well, yeah?
Yeah, I don't know where it came from. With this small screen, it's hard for me to keep track of everybody's mic.
Right. So we are kind of too afraid these days to open up to another person in case we are being taken advantage of, and you see that so many times with people cold calling the house, trying to sell you things that you don't need, or trying to embezzle money from you one way or the other. You can see it very much in the present system. And this has to do with the fear that we have in everyday life. Now, when I say fear, I don't mean fear as everybody is running around frightened, but as a species, we worry a lot of the time about all kinds of things, from did I set my alarm? Am I going to be on time at work? Am I going to be late again? How am I going to explain this? Or from more grim things on how do I tell the kids that the dog has been run over by a car, but it could also be a death in the family or anything like that. Now, the majority will tell a lie if it gets them out of trouble, or trying to be kind to spare someone's thoughts. Now, these or someone's feelings. Now, these are all emotional reactions, and as a result of the present representation of society. And of course, there are many more reasons for people to react in an emotional manner. And this is what we have been learned and how we've been conditioned really over the many, many years that things are going on and what we're trying to change. But by lying or trying to protect someone from hardship or from bad news or something like that, it is something that we need to learn and need to learn how to control. We need to teach this in the school so we have an open and transparent society. Now, MVC sees it different, and so does the majority of the people here tonight. As a matter of fact, most people in the world would want to communicate the MVC way, but again, status and reputation sometimes stands in the way. And with that, I meant I come from a tough neighborhood, and it was all about your reputation and your status within the community. It is very hard to then turn around and try to talk in a non-violent way, especially if you've been brought up totally the opposite. But we can overcome that. We can overcome every obstacle that prevents us from communicating effectively with compassion and empathy. And how do we do that? Now, MVC is not as effective now as it will be in a resource-based society. This is for the simple fact that there is no personal gain to get anymore. And it will be taught in school from a young age. The moment as it is now with how people view MVC, it's a very good tool, but it is being taken advantage of by the powers that be at times. And that's why it's in many cases not very effective. In a resource-based society where everything is transparent and open, MVC will be a brilliant way of communication. And this is why it's so difficult for us, or for the majority of the people, to switch from the way we talk today to a complete new language in the present setting. Now, MVC and RBE go hand in hand, and is a great way for our next generations to grow and live in peace and respect for all, with a clear line of communication. So the how would be, but it's like everything else, what many groups are talking about, and that is that we have to do it from the roots up. But to get there, we would have to turn the soil. With other words, we have to turn the world basically upside down. We need to prepare it, plant the seed, and watch it grow. And while it's growing, we should nurture it with all we have. So it's going to be hard to educate the public about nonviolent communication, or for them to accept it as a new form of communication. And this is because people have been stuck in their ways for such a long time. It is hard for me because I was brought up in a very different way, and for so many here. But the more we use it, the better the understanding it will be about nonviolent communication. I mean, Buddha did not find nirvana overnight, but the same thing counts for everyone that starts using nonviolent communication in everyday life. I'm not saying you will find nirvana that way, but it will certainly open you up to all kinds of self-awareness and to a lot better discussions. Now, of course, we still use the words like fuck and shit and worse. And now these can be very funny when it's used in the right context. But still, we do not appreciate it when our 5-year-old is using it, or when words are being used in a derogatory way to belittle someone.
Oh dear, we've lost our presenter. Are you there, Tony? Okay, Tony seems to have fallen out of the air. Tony? So this would be the point when a good filler would be handy. Hi, Gary. Yeah, there seems to be some problem with the connection. So I don't know exactly how we're going to deal with that.
Be hopping on. You want to
Are you
read
there, Tony?
what is on the screen?
Yeah, he's fallen out now. Okay. I'm suspecting that he'll be back in a few minutes. So what shall we do in the meantime? Well, I've just written down a few points that he's brought up that are important to me, that I can really resonate with. And the first thing is the first step in nonviolent communication. What he mentions is empathy with yourself. And this is something I can really relate to, because so often when I'm talking about something that really means a lot to me. Oh, there you are.
Sorry.
No problem.
I don't know what happened. Where did I get to?
You got to the point where it might be funny when a 5-year-old uses those awful 4-letter words, but when we hear them being addressed to us, we're usually not
Right, okay.
about it. Yeah?
Yes, I've got it. So I went to the next page, to what is nonviolent communication. Well, some would say it's just good common sense. Think before you speak. Be true and honest about what you are going to say. Say it in such a way that the other person feels your compassion and feels at ease. And be authentic. Be precise in what you are saying.
Tony, could you share your screen with us?
Oh, haven't I done that again?
No.
All right, sorry. That's because I got booted out, wasn't it?
You didn't get booted.
Oh no, my Wi-Fi booted me out. It wasn't you.
You're spending too much time in those conferences.
Ah, right. Can you all see it?
What's that?
Can you all see it now?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'll start again. So So what is nonviolent communication? Well, some would say it's good common sense. Think before you speak. Be true and honest about what you're going to say.
Nuno, please mute.
Sorry.
Say it in.
Wow, this is.
We'll get there. So be precise in what you are saying, so there is no misunderstanding. Avoid conflict and try to negotiate a better way of communicating by putting differences aside. If you're working on a project and it has nothing to do with your personal life, then put your personal differences aside and work together. But then, unfortunately, there's always a few that are just malicious. We have our trolls. We have people that have incredibly large egos, and it doesn't help in the way of communication. When that happens and you've tried your best, well, what can I say? It happens. This was. Let me go back to things. Do apologize. This was more or less my PowerPoint presentation. Like I said in the beginning, we used nonviolent communication in our own manifesto for the World Summit. And the reason it came about there because we started on a very negative point. We wanted to kind of scare people into things, wake them up and, you know, come on guys, what are you doing? Pull your head out of your ear and do something about it. You're not alone anymore. And all in the admin team, they worked in it, and we kind of says, you know, this is not right. This is not right at all. We need to be on a positive, we need to start on a positive note. It is the same when I've got children. If my son has been naughty or I found out that he's been naughty, I would address first the positive side of things before I start beginning with the negative side. Starting with a negative side is for people to start digging their heels in already, regardless of the positive, what you say. So with us starting our manifesto, we turned it into an invitation. We made it in such a way that it sounded exciting. It was exciting to look forward to a new beginning, to a new way of working together. And we left all the bad stuff out because we didn't need it. Everybody knows the bad stuff. And this is the same thing with nonviolent communication, because nonviolent communication, resource-based societies, economies, it is all working very well together. Unfortunately, it doesn't work very well at the present time, apart from a small group of people that are seeing that change is needed. But by using it more and more, it's going to rub off on other people, and people will start adopting it. It's like when I go to another part of the country, I'll start talking in their dialect. It happens, and it's the same thing. So it's like they say, practice what you preach, and you will pass it on. So if there's any questions, I'll be more than happy to take any questions. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah, that was me. And nonviolent communication.
Okay, thank you, Tony, so much. Could you stop sharing your screen now?
Yes, how do I do that?
Just click the same button.
That's it.
Yeah, there we are. Okay, so thank you so much for sharing those ideas with us. And I'm sure that everybody has had some kind of experience or some questions about nonviolent communication. So I'd like to open the meeting now to the sharing or the questions. As I mentioned at the beginning, let's keep it to about 3 minutes per person. If it gets longer, I'll give you a sign, and we can perhaps address anything else at the end of the meeting, okay? So is there anyone that would like to start?
So I must have explained it all right then.
People are usually pretty shy about getting started. Nicholas, you're always one of the last ones, and tonight you're going first. Excellent.
Not today. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks for the presentation. It's interesting to see also. I also was struggling with the message that I was trying to send out. So it's interesting to see how we both kind of went through the same process and really tried to make it sound more positive, basically. I was just wondering, I did 2 workshops on nonviolent communication. One was like a half-day workshop, and the other was a 2-day workshop. And while the first one was too short, so I mean, you've only got like half an hour, so we can't fit everything in. But the 2-day one, absolutely, like I'm not exaggerating when I say it. It really changed my life, my kind of perception on communication, just relating to people. So I was just wondering if you could break it down, like at least in our workshop, it was like kind of divided into 4 steps of nonviolent communication. So maybe you can tell us a bit about that. That would be super cool.
So you want to know how I got to these conclusions? Sorry, I'm not quite sure what you're trying to ask.
No, okay, I apologize. Sorry if that wasn't clear. No, I mean, if you could maybe walk us through how the process, how MVC, like just on a really high level, how the nonviolent communication process kind of works.
Right. Okay. When I said in the beginning of the presentation, it was Stephanie that asked me to do the presentation about nonviolent communication, and I to be honest, since before that day, I never heard of it. So it was for me a bit of research, finding out. And when I did the research, I found that we actually implemented it, and I found that we had a lot in common with the invitation that we wrote for our group. Now, I started thinking like that there are so many what's the word for it? There are so many similar connections to what we were trying to do, but how we got to nonviolent communication was more through self-awareness than going by the guidelines that I've learned about over the last month or so. It's very interesting because most of the things I have learned is through self-awareness, and I think that's the best way of learning. And I don't know if you can teach someone that. It is, I assume for you, Nicholas, when you did your course for 2 days, people prompted to get that self-awareness out of you by giving you these guidelines. So for me to go step by step through them, I would suggest to people, please have a look online about different things, because nonviolent communication is that you have your 4 main steps, but it is explained in a different way. It depends on how it grabs you. Like your half a day didn't work, and you needed 2 days. For some people, it might literally just be a epiphany and go like, wow, I didn't know it worked like that. Why didn't I do this earlier?
Okay, so I think what you're basically saying is what you mentioned in the first step, basically self-empathy, and that's self-awareness. And I think that I agree that would probably be the first step. Nicholas, did you have anything you wanted to add from your experience?
Well, I can maybe share my experience. Maybe that's helpful. I'll try to do that as shortly as possible. Where exactly as Tony said, the first step is self-awareness and being aware of firstly what you're feeling, so your emotion, and then you kind of need to do some digging and go to the need, the human need, which is behind the emotion. And the really tricky thing is differentiating your strategy to meet that need with the need itself. So for example, if you say, I need you to, that is not a need. So I need you to listen to me is not really a need. I need to be heard is a need. So it's really interesting to see how a lot of relationships can kind of go wrong with that. So you kind of identify the need behind the emotion, and then I can't remember the steps perfectly, so I'm a bit rusty. But then basically you formulate a request basically you find a strategy to meet that need, and then the other person can reply, no, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable with that, and you go back and forth. But that's kind of what I got out of it, and I found it really helpful. So I definitely recommend, as Tony said, to do your own digging online, and there are courses all over Europe and probably all over the world. So I'd recommend doing one. So cheers. And thanks again, Tony, for the presentation.
You're muted, Charlotte. You're muted, Charlotte.
We can't hear you. Can you unmute yourself, Charlotte?
God, there I am talking to myself again. Yeah, but sometimes I need expert advice. Yeah, that's exactly right, Nicholas. Those 4 steps I found on the internet for our guidelines. And if I could just give a tip, which I also mentioned, I think in my last post in the Facebook group chat, when you feel an emotion coming up, that's usually when you need to take a pause. So that's when you need to say, okay, what's going on here? And I notice for myself that when I get really agitated, that's usually when I should say the least. Okay, anybody else like to add their insights or experience about nonviolent communication or violent communication? Experiences, how you might have liked it to be otherwise?
I don't have any experiences, but I'll go.
Great.
All right, perfect. So this is like the first time, well, this is like a couple weeks into hearing nonviolent communication, and I like the expression of, how do I say it? Hold on, sorry. Of compassionate communication. So there's like different abbreviations to nonviolent communication and or collaborative communication. And me looking up, like researching myself, because I haven't actually looked at nonviolent communication in depth or in a lecture, but I'll just give you like some bullet points because I didn't hear them, all of them, but it may help people to understand nonviolent communication more. For example, the assumptions of nonviolent communications are all human beings share the same needs. Another one is our world offers sufficient resources for meeting everyone's basic needs. Another one is all actions are attempts to meet needs. Another point is filling points to need being met or unmet. Another point is all human beings have the capacity for compassion. Another one is human beings enjoy giving. Another one is human beings meet needs through interdependent relationships. Human beings change. Choice is internal. And the most direct path to peace is through self-connection. And then there's intention. So like, I'll just give you like another example, but it fascinates me. That's why it's pretty cool, because I really relate to compassionate communication. So for another, intentions is like open heart living, self-compassion, expressing from the heart, receiving with compassion, prioritizing connections, moving beyond right or wrong to use needs-based assessments, meaning like the choice of responsibility piece, take responsibility for other people's feelings or their actions or their unmet needs, or increasing capacity for meeting their needs, increasing capacity to meet their present moment for their needs, and sharing power. And this is all like online, but it really resonated with me, meaning like, I think it's a great way to actually start bridging the gap between, I guess you could say, nations or individuals, and utilizing that into an RBE. But that's just a couple ideas I wanted to get out, and I really do appreciate you, Tony. It was an amazing presentation.
Okay, thanks, Ro. Yes, Tony?
Thank you so much, Charlotte, for letting me go. Thank you so much, Tony, and it was a pleasure.
I tried my best, mate.
Okay, maybe somebody else. And since we are an RBE learning group and possible activists, it might be interesting to hear why some of you other people think that a nonviolent communication is so important for us as activists, which is my point of view. Is there anybody else that thinks this way?
I think I could add something to this. So, in my experience, okay, well, I live in the United States, in a state that's has this very odd shadow of conservatism, at least American conservatism, which is probably the polar opposite of what the word actually means. The the issue that I've had with a lot of people, like, is when I try to discuss things with people of the far right, if you will, on the political spectrum, they tend to automatically start to harass either the idea or you as an individual. And I think that one of the elements that should be one of the elements of nonviolent communication that should be discussed is that sometimes there are people who are just not ready to receive information. And even though there might be like this, they might spark a fire in you as an individual, and you just kind of want to be like, well, you know what I think? The best thing that you can do, even if they are the most disagreeable, argumentative person, is to simply walk away. Because if you decide to, let's just say they're having a bad day and you have no idea. So like that was one of those things that I've always tried to tell my friends, they're, oh, I had a bad day at work. Some customer came in, they chewed me out. They had no right to do it. And I'm like, well, just always remember that there's probably some kind of battle that's going on in their head or in their life. They've got these circumstances that are making them angry. So like you return to that. Humans naturally kind of want to be compassionate and nice to one another. And even if they're rude, they must have something terrible going on. And if you return the bad attitude, or you begin to ad hominem them, which is like attacking them as a person, you tend to then leave a lasting impression on what you were just trying to present. So I was talking to an American Republican about the resource-based economy, and they started going off the rails and saying things like communism and Stalin and all of the bad, dirty words that are attached to those things. If I decided to say something about the people he looked up to, say he likes, I don't know, Ron Paul or something, if I attack him for having the wrong ideas and just being just like every other Republican, then he'll see that argument that I made, or the personal argument, if I made one, in every single person that tries to talk to him about a resource-based economy in the future. He will think back to how ugly I was to him in return, and he'll think that about everybody. And the same thing happens, this is not related specifically, but I'm a vegan. So a lot of people, when they hear me say that, they automatically think PETA. Oh man, like I don't have anything to do with PETA personally, and they have a bad reputation here and there. But you see how it happens. They represent an idea, they do something ugly, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's everyone who falls within a certain category. So yeah, sometimes it is definitely beneficial to simply walk away from the conversation and maybe state at the end of it that I didn't mean to say or do anything that offended you as a person, and then that's it.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew. That reminds me of a famous line from The Karate Kid when the master says, "Best way to win fight is not be there." So it's definitely and I really like how you bring that up, that people really tend to only remember the negative things. And when we're trying to get the RBE message across, that's really not the way to go. Anyone else that would like to share comments or experiences, ideas?
Yeah, I could go.
Oh, Yuri, good.
Hey, yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Jacques Fresco talks about a more fundamental level of NVC, which is projecting your view on what people say. So you would say, well, that person is, you're offending me in what you say, but what that person is saying might actually be a neutral observation, but you're taking that as an offense. It's in your head. So when people say, even words like, I'll use like fuck, some people might be offended by that. Some people might laugh at that. Some people, sorry. Some people, like, if you say that sound to, the pattern to a Chinese person, they might not really care. So it really is not in the word, it's not in the sound, it's in the person's head. So it's in the expectation of what that means. And so Jacques Fresco talks about that in terms of projecting your own view and being offended or being sad when something happens, when actually that was always a possibility, but you didn't think about that. You were expecting that something else would happen, but something else instead happened. So it's pretty interesting that it's really a scientific approach. Like if you see like a meteor hits Earth and you go like, oh, if you say, well, the skies are attacking us, that is not useful. That doesn't help you in understanding or solving the problem. But if you say, okay, I don't know what that means, what is that? So then you can try to figure it out. So basically, that's the way I see it. If you say, well, there's an example of Marshall Rosenberg. He gives an example of a person that says, oh, that person, a particular person was yelling at me. He keeps yelling at me all the time. And he says, well, that's an interpretation from you, because what if that person comes from a place that it's normal to speak at that voice level, so they're not actually yelling at you. It's your own view of what you're projecting they are doing to you, not what they actually are or their intentions really are. So I find that really, really interesting. It really has a scientific approach, and I wish some people more would do that, and I've been focusing on learning that. But my main question is common sense. So what, Tony, maybe you mean by common sense? Because for me, that is a little convoluted to understand, just for me. But because freaking from that example, I was thinking, it's common sense. They should not yell at someone. But what if you're making an assumption that they are yelling at you, and instead of that is a normal voice level from where they come from, So isn't common sense maybe too vague to be incorporated into this approach?
Common sense. I see common sense more as this is where things become very difficult when you're talking about nonviolent communication and semantics, because what do I exactly mean? Everybody knows what is right and wrong. Yeah, it's that simple. We all have, you should not steal from someone. You should not abuse someone. You should be open and speak from the heart. Don't try to take advantage of someone. So what common sense is, it's just an expression. The word common sense, it's basically what the heart tells you what is right. Now, I know what you said about Jacques Fresco, that, if you say the word fuck, it's okay because people speak like that. Well, everybody knows that word is seen by most people as a profanity. Now, you wouldn't want to start a conversation where where this person might be offended by. If you don't know that the person is offended by it, and you speak the way you speak, you will be reminded by it if the other person is thinking the same way as you are. So there would be no argument. It would be like, why are you, shouting at me? Is it something, or is this the way you do things? So this is where we have to put our differences aside a little bit. If I talk to my mother-in-law, I cannot say the word fuck. I know that because she is a religious woman. If I say that, then, she's going to give me a slap around the ears. So I have to accommodate her because I'm on her territory. So I'm in her house. I follow her rules at that moment in time. And this is where I think common sense comes in. You know what is right, you know what is wrong, you know how to approach people. And I hope that it explains it a little bit.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you, Tony. And I think I can see both of your positions, and I think actually you're talking about the same thing. When you say Yuri, I know exactly what you're talking about, what Jacques said, and that's basically what it is when Tony says empathy for yourself. You've got contact with your feelings. So you know that we are all products of a conditioned society. And so you know that when you react, or when other people react to something, that's part of the conditioning. Like that thing about fuck. Now, everybody here in Holland says fuck. Every other word is fuck. And in my classrooms as an English teacher, I go completely crazy. I say, nobody talks like that in America. Yes, they do. We've seen Eddie Murphy. And so I try to explain this to them. So I'm getting completely tied into knots, but I know that's my conditioning. And those students, they don't have that conditioning. They're trying to be cool. They want to. So nonviolent communication really starts, like Tony says, being aware. Oh, my conditioning is being triggered. And also noticing, oh, when is their conditioning being triggered, and being able to work around that. So it's really the same thing, I think, from both sides. Anyone else want to share some thoughts?
I'm up.
Hi, Jeff.
Basically, for me, I don't know if it's a problem or anything, but whenever I get to talking with people and people disagree with me, I tend to want to overspeak them, and that makes it seem like I'm getting violent. But that's just something in my blood, and I just don't like ignorance and basically ignoring me. What I like to do to not be violent in that sense is I just ask people questions at this point. That's basically all I think you can do. If people want to argue with you, just ask them questions. I don't really know what else to say because that's along the lines of Yuri's and Tony's and Jacques and everybody's perspective, probably.
No, but I think that's a great technique, Jeff. I mean, I find that for myself, that when I feel myself getting triggered, that I give myself some time to not overreact by asking questions. And I think Andrew mentioned that in our last meeting when he said it helps in activism if you get to the basis. Wasn't it something like that, Andrew?
Yes. So when I was talking about it last time, it was that there's an importance in the role of trying to help the other individual know that you think that their concerns are valid. Now, like, they may go about trying to solve those issues in different ways than we might, but at the very bottom of it, that is the root cause of what makes them concerned and want to do something about it. That's what you try to aim at trying to get to. You try to get, and you try to make sure, like I said, to let them know that their concerns aren't disregarded, that they are important, that that's the whole point of the exchange, is to find out what that is.
Yeah, and that really touches also what Raul was saying about the basic needs that everybody has. I mean, so much what I see in these Facebook discussions is really people just want to know, I hear you, I take your argument seriously, or at least I want to find out more about it. So questions, I think, are a great way to go. PD, am I pronouncing that correctly? would you like to share something? I asked you tonight because I saw your post on the TVP forum, and I thought you were making some really good points. So, is there anything you'd like to share?
I believe I heard him say he had a problem with his microphone, so he was just going to.
Oh, is that so? Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
But anyways, another point I want to bring up about the whole projection thing is projection. Basically, when people want to argue with you, they're most oftenly projecting themselves onto you, which is the opposite of what they should be doing. And you have to just learn how to break that down by asking questions.
Yep.
And sometimes, even if you know that you're not wrong, you have to put your guards down to open a dialogue again. I remember that Charlotte and I got into a little disagreement with someone, and I sent him a couple of private messages. I says, you know, why are you doing this? You know, why do we have to communicate in this kind of way? Now, I made the effort of trying to reconnect, because what he did was not right. He was being rude and he was being arrogant, and you can't have a discussion like that. So I sent him a couple of messages, but it didn't work. And then I felt really bad because I had to kind of cut my ties because he would not listen. And if you would have just had that moment in time where you stop and think before you say something, it's like when you cross the road, you don't just blindly cross the road. You stop, you look, you think. And it's the same way of communicating with everybody else. Don't get me wrong, I drive a car and I get well pissed off when somebody cuts me up, you know, and I let them know about it as well. My horn don't stop. But this is an involuntary action, which is immediately after somebody has done something bad to you. It's sometimes called a fight or flight. So, sorry, you want to say something, Charlotte? You gotta unmute yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And in this discussion that Tony is referring to, when I realized this guy was only going to insult me, what did I say? I'm not reading your posts anymore. I'm not responding to them. And I really didn't. So that's like Andrew says, just walk away. Let's see. Nuno, would you like to share something about nonviolent communication or anything?
Okay, I might share. It's not one of the suggested examples, but I watched. I think it's Marshall Rosenberg about non-violent communication on YouTube. It's a lecture. I think 1 hour and 45 minutes. What I saw in that lecture was indeed something not entirely new to me. I have some background on that kind of speaking in my course, in my trainer course, and I found that myself thinking in one. I think the only thing I haven't quite agree with Jack. I think he's related. I think everyone remembers when Jack told his idea that nowadays there is no language suitable for one another to communicate, and that is a term I think we can have a further, more deeply discussion about this. But I don't agree. I don't agree with him. I think we have language, and what we should or must is to adequate to use that language in our example in a non-violent way. I think we can be non-violent communicators if we use adequately our languages. I mean, all languages, like Portuguese, English. I think all languages is suitable for one another to use nonviolent communication. And I think the 2-hour movement is a thing very important. Mainly the first touch we have with a person that has no clue about what a resource-based economy or our off-stream ideas. I think it's very important, nonviolent communication language.
Okay, thank you, Nuno. Sorry, we get a lot of feedback from your mic, but I was able to make out, I think, most of your message, which brought up an interesting point that Jacques made about communication, and he was very strong about how the languages we have nowadays are not precise enough. And you said that you disagree on this point. I think this is very interesting. Personally, as a linguist, you all know I'm the big teacher of linguistics. So this is also something that I would definitely like to talk about more in a future presentation. So thanks for bringing that up. Stephanie, did you want to add anything? Or did you fall back asleep?
No, I'm here. Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank Tony. It's really good presentation. I learned a lot. Secondly, I would say it's really useful for myself to learn NVC, because sometimes when I approach people about resource-based economy, I often feel like how people can be so ignorant. It's wrong, I know. I got so offended sometimes when people being so not smart. Yeah, so I think I need to change a way to talk to people, because if you want them to understand and accept this concept, we have to understand them first. I think I've talked about this with Andrew before. We have to understand them as a person first, then we can approach them instead of just through words into their mouth. So yeah, it's really useful, and I will learn more about it. Thank you, Tony. Yep.
Hey, you're welcome. I wanted to add on something to that as well, because while I was writing the presentation, I came to, I was talking to someone, and it was mentioned about a black community and a white community, and I thought, like, well, you can't say that, because if you say that, you have already preconceptions about these, about the idea of, like, oh, well, they live in a white community, they live in a black community, and it's for everybody the same. Now, with RBE and moving forward, and how to communicate to people that are not familiar with nonviolent communication, is to literally drop your guard and accept that you're on their turf, so to say. You're in their neighborhood, so you can't all of a sudden bring something new in. You have to get to know the people, like you said, Stephanie, and speak their language for a bit until that they can accept you within the community and say, well, this guy or this woman has really got something to say here. You know, let's listen. And this is where we have to, you know, slowly put our differences aside. Also, for us, we have to put our differences aside about RBE to talk to somebody else, so that we have an open and transparent conversation.
Charlotte,
Charlotte,
you're not.
you have to unmute
You need to
yourself.
mute yourself.
Blah, 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 blah. I'm such a professional. Okay, so I wanted to say a few things myself about the presentation and about nonviolent communication. As I said, for me, the first point is vital in keeping touch in yourself. And the second thing is noticing when emotions are driving the conversation. And the third point that is, I think everybody sort of mentioned, but I'd like to say straight out, is that I think that we, every one of the people in this room and every single person involved in promoting a resource-based economy has to set the example. We can't expect other people to do it. We have to do it. If people get upset, we have to be the ones that calm down and find the common ground, like Tony just said, you know, as that we are in their neighborhood in a way until we can meet some kind of common ground. What I also wanted to share is something that I wrote today on Facebook. About how important, what I liked hearing also from you, Tony, about how your group, how the World Summit completely revolutionized your manifesto into an invitation. And that really corresponds to what I wrote as a reaction today on a post. I think that there is enough scientific research to suggest that there is a common fundamental link within life to share experiences at some deep level within the species, the planet, and the universe. As such, people today are subconsciously bombarded with screams of suffering to the extent that they consciously cannot take much more. I am beginning to increasingly suspect that in order to reach people for change, we need to stop flooding them with images of horror. They already are aware of this at various levels. We have to start being able to offer images of hope. As activists, we may want to consider how violent our approach is. And I'm talking about myself too. What I post on Facebook, you know, the 100th picture of starving people or government corruption or whatever. While it is necessary for some people to get wake-up calls, too many of them expressed in violent language may actually do more harm than good. So what I'm personally interested in, what I'm going to be starting from today, is in developing alternative presentations of our vision, really emphasizing what things that people will be attracted to instead of images to scare them about the world they live in currently. And that comes down to the old, I have lover. Wonder what I was thinking of. That's the old dichotomy, love versus fear. So that was just what I wanted to share on my reactions to the subject.
May I comment on that, please, Charlotte?
You've got 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. What you just said is exactly what we're trying to do at this moment in time, by connecting with everybody that already knows about the bad stuff. The World Summit itself doesn't have the solution, so we rely on people like yourselves, you know, to join up and present us those solutions. And this is the way forward, I think, personally. But this way, you introduce nonviolent communication, you introduce empathy and compassion for each other. You all are focused on the same goal. And with that, it's always been a numbers game. The more numbers we have, the more exposure we will get, the sooner things will happen. At the moment, we still have people that have their heads in the sand. They're still in their little comfort bubble. It happens, but the more exposure we get, the media will eventually get involved as well, because it's going to be too big to ignore. So it's something that we should all really prepare for and kind of come together as one big tribe, so to say, with all little separate tribes that want to do their own things, as long when they live under the umbrella of sustainability. So, sorry, I just wanted to add that on.
No apologies. Okay, it's 9:15, and as I mentioned, I'd like now to turn the meeting over to practical matters. So I've got a few things I'd like to mention, and if anybody else has some practical things they'd like to ask about or contribute, I will ask you in a few minutes. The first thing is exciting news. I have been contacted by somebody who is developing learning modules. He used to be with another group, but he's now working on his own and doing his own websites and developing his own learning modules. And one of them is about nonviolent communication. So if you're interested in doing this, Nicholas, yes, I'm looking at you. If you're interested in doing this, and they're really cool. They only take about 1 or 2 hours, and you get to watch a film, and then you get multiple choice questions. They're really good bits of learning. So if you'd like to get one, to get a link to these materials, send us an email at movingforward@gmail.com, or you can message us on the Facebook page. Really, they're really nice, and I'm really happy this guy reached out to us. Second thing is about the presentations. It's nice if I can put them on the YouTube channel separately in case, because we want to make these learning tools for people besides everyone in the meeting. So some people won't want to listen to an hour and a half, maybe they'll only want to watch the half-hour presentation. So Tony, if you could send me yours, then I'll find a way to upload it to YouTube if that's okay with you. And for people doing presentations in the future, I would ask that. Yeah?
You want my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll send that over to you.
Great, thank you. The other thing, these are my own personal things. I sometimes, this evening it wasn't so much of a thing, but in some meetings I see people using their phones or doing other things and stuff. And as I mentioned earlier, the individual attention span is not very long, so I understand this. But I think it's nice, it's a suggestion, to work on increasing attention and learning to listen to others by giving the full attention to the people speaking. That's my own personal thing, and everybody is welcome to react to that if they want. Another personal thing for me, as an educator, you know, everybody that gives a presentation here is some kind of specialist, or they have specialized in this thing. And the best way to keep the discussion at a high level is to come with information already. So on the events, I list things you can read, things you can watch, to prepare yourself, so we keep these conversations at a really high level. Now, this is sort of opposite the old view of education, that we sort of sit back and let the all-knowing teacher tell us everything. In the new resource-based economy point of education, it's a cooperative effort. That means, you know, we're not just getting it from somebody, we're also preparing for it, doing our own work on it. So, yeah, once a teacher, always a teacher, yeah. One last thing I want to say. I recently started a post on the Facebook page about a learning library. And I've gotten some suggestions on the books. Stephanie is putting together a list of links for videos. And I really would like to get as many contributions to this as possible. So if you know of a book or a film or a video clip that you think, wow, this really is information that people can use to find out more about what we're all about, please send it to the group. Anyone else with anything practical? Yeah, Nicholas.
Always first today. No, this is just a small thing, but as internet isn't perfect all around the world, I'm speaking from like probably one of the worst internets in Europe at the moment. I just wanted to offer, so in the case that we have, like, I don't know, someone's mic is echoing or the so, like the host or the person giving the presentation gets disconnected. If you want, I can edit the videos. So like for the people, when we want to upload it on YouTube, we can edit them. Currently, as I said, my internet's really bad, but as of September, when I'll be in a place with better connection, then we can transfer the files and I can volunteer to edit them if that's something that you guys would like. So.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's all about, now that we've been together for like 2 months, I'm seeing definite progression, definite improvement in how these meetings are going, and also the idea of other people watching them. At the meeting also, Roel brought up the idea of making a short film, a short clip that sort of presents the message of this group in a sort of short, concise way. So if you're able to help us with that, that's great, Nicholas. Anything else? Yeah, Yuri.
Yeah, something related to nonviolent communication, something I've been thinking about in the past year or so is, it seems to me that the background, the core of this that helped me in practice was the approach of understanding that I could be wrong about something, even though it makes absolute sense in my head. I'm absolutely sure. And I used to be very stubborn when I was a kid with in classroom and stuff like that, because I thought, well, when I was really sure about something, a calculation or something, I really insisted and I was really stubborn about that. And in many cases I was right, but maybe because I had good memory or something, but in many cases I was wrong. And so I learned that you could be wrong. It makes sense in your head. We have points of view. We have perspectives. We don't see the full spectrum of light. Even our instruments don't see the whole electromagnetic spectrum. We only see bits of the universe, and from a particular perspective, from particular vectors. So, and that helps me, because I say, when I approach someone, he's the practical side of it, I don't assume that I'm right. I assume that I could be wrong. It's highly, there's more chance that I could be wrong than I could be right. So I just approach in the sense of, okay, what you're saying doesn't match what I know, my knowledge base up to now, but okay, do you have any evidence? I could be wrong, so share that with me. But so that's something that helped me. And so I really never approach like I'm right and that person is ignorant or something like that. I usually actually think that we are all ignorant in different areas. I know a lot about some things, you know a lot about other things, but I'm also very ignorant in some areas, and I would like to improve in those areas. And the thing is, we don't know what we don't know, so we have to be open to those. Well, that's the approach that helped me. I hope it's useful.
Very good point. Thank you. Andrew, you wanted to say something?
Yes. First, I would like to tell everyone, and Tony especially, since he was the presenter here, that my focus wasn't on the screen for a percentage of that. I just want to let you guys know that I've been writing a lot of notes. Like, I've got a whole page here, and I've like had my pen scribbling here. I've had to like sharpen this twice. I actually have like this really awesome textbook for public speaking, and there are some things that I feel like with Tony and perhaps future that we could pick up what we were just talking about with nonviolent communication, and then talk about perhaps like the methods in which we deliver messages too. Like, so using that language styling and addressing their concerns and stuff, but also how to structure the type of message. And again, I'm sorry if people thought I was over here like playing Words with Friends or something on my phone. That's not the case. I was
looking for more memes with lambs on them. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. So but yeah, so like Yuri was just saying, like serially developed knowledge, that's exactly what I was kind of working on here. And maybe in the future I'd like to share some things that I've learned about communication as well.
Always welcome.
Charlotte, I'm not on my phone all the time. And what's sorry, yeah,
Why do you
Stephanie.
feel like I was talking to you? You've
I'm
got
just
your
playing.
screen on. Look at all these black screens. Who knows what they're doing right there?
Yeah, yeah. All right.
Just joking with you guys. I know I come across as a strict teacher, and I am. Okay, well, we've reached the end of the official meeting. If there are people who would like to continue talking, I believe that Raul's going to stay online. Raul, is that right? Raul?
Yeah, if everyone would like to actually join on the next meeting, or well, not the next meeting, but
Well, I'm going to be signing off to keep this video at 1.5 hours, like we agreed. So maybe you guys want to, if you stay on, you want to talk about whether or not the additional conversations need to be filmed or not. In that case, you'll have to come up with a way to do that. But I feel that I have done my duty for this evening. I just want to encourage all of you to come to the next meeting that I believe Andrew is going to be talking on. And the details are on the Facebook page, as are the coming 9 presentations. Oh, Dill Daddy, you're late. Welcome. Yeah, the library. If you're talking about the resource, the Learning Library PD, that's on the Facebook page. It's called Moving Forward RBE Learning Network. And our YouTube channel is also Moving Forward, and you can find that there. So keep up to date on the event. Oh, and please share the posts. Get these things out. There's a lot of interesting information, and I get the feeling that not many people know about it. So loved being with you guys. I'm going. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.